Thank you all for being here today. And let's check this. Make sure it's working. Let me go a different one, see? Maybe I won't be able to use that. See. One more. No, it's okay. I'll just run it from the computer.
Okay. I heard it just now go boop boop. So
Oh, maybe the. No.
Oh, you have to plug it in.
Yeah, I did.
yeah.
Yeah. But oh.
Like it, it's okay.
Oh, there we go. There we go. Ah, I unplugged it and we plugged it in. Okay. So thank you, everyone. My name is Thompson. I'm from University of Washington, Bothell, and in IT. And we're going to talk about improving digital accessibility, a little bit about WCAG 2.0 and PDFs. Okay, now you can go. There you go. Okay. So this is our session outcome. So hopefully after I'm done presenting, we'll be able to accomplish some of those, like be able to name or list what are those the four most important criteria that were the changes, the main changes what to 2.2. Be able to apply a decision framework for choosing between PDF and something else, right? PDF is not always an answer or the answer. So I'll identify some of the common PDF failures, what makes PDF the least accessible format possible, even though it's very easy to create and everything. And then hopefully with some of the, here then if you ask questions, maybe help you select an appropriate method for dealing with your PDFs. Okay, so basically we just talk a little bit about the compliance clock, the essentials review, what actually changed, why PDFs are our biggest liability, some alternatives, and a little primer, and then a Q&A. And okay, all right. So some accessibility terms I wanted to start with. WCAG, WCAG, it stands for the World Wide Web Consortium Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, and it's usually pronounced by a lot of people as WCAG. ADA Title II rule, you're probably familiar with it, right? That was the federal update that happened a couple of years ago to the Americans with Disabilities Act, and the big change was that they were starting to apply the WCAG 2.1 standards to it, so we have to abide by those. Structure with semantic meaning. What does that mean? It's basically applying code to identify the pieces or parts of content, and whether it's a web page or a document, it's a PDF, so it can be identified as such. Tagging is basically that coding, but it specifically applied to PDFs. The tags are little bits of code that identify headings or a table or paragraph text, etc., and it's similar to HTML. And assistive technology, all the applications that a user may use, someone may use to interact with digital content. Could be a screen reader, could be a speech-to-text tool, something to zoom the screen. It could be something to recolor the content for better visibility, or a combination of things. So a couple of things I would like you to keep in mind is a couple questions. Does WCAG 2.2, because even though we need to abide by 2.1, this will be coming, okay? Will that change what I have to do? And the second one is, when is a PDF document the right answer? Because, folks, PDFs are not going away in the near future. So just have to admit that. So, okay? And then important dates. So we have the extension now, April 26th of next year. And then for the state of Washington, and I don't know if this is happening in other states as well, we need to, as of June 30th, we are all switching to WCAG 2.2. So as part of our state requirement. So we're going above and beyond that, the federal. So, okay. So we're going to do a quick essentials review, which is a refresher of what was in WCAG 2.1. Okay. So in style and structure, we have style, typography. We should use legible sans serif fonts. larger sizes than we think sometimes. Minimum, like, depending on the font, 12 or 11, right? Avoid all caps outside of acronyms that have been explained. Color, never use color by itself to communicate meaning. Very, very important. Color is great. You can use it, but don't use it by itself, right? Make sure also there's sufficient contrast between what's in front of that, like the font and the background, or within images, so people can distinguish. Readability, use strategic white space strategically. That helps a lot of people, especially if they're neurodiverse, with good organization, lots of white space. Plain language. It's just we know all of these terms. We're so educated sometimes that sometimes we lose people on the way, right? So let's use understandable language and make sure that we have accurate reading order in what we create. Structure, headings. We need to follow true semantic hierarchy. Start with one heading, one followed by H2, H3s, and so forth. Don't skip levels. Links, make sure they're descriptive and meaningful, and avoiding as much as possible to using the long, ugly URLs like Google or even the Microsoft OneDrive SharePoint ones. Really, really ugly. Nobody's going to type those. Okay? And yeah. List. Make sure that we're using the built-in list, whether they're bulleted or they are the number list, because they provide structure. Never create manual lists in documents unless you are writing in Markdown, in which you can, because it will create it for you. Okay, data media. So, data, properties, or also known as metadata. Make sure that there's a descriptive title and page names, and there's an added and included language attribute. That means if the document is of the content in English, it should say English in that attribute. Tables, they should always have headers, whether it is row headers or column headers or both, right? And it should be used for data. So try to avoid the use for, just keeping content pretty and in place, because they're harder to navigate. Form fields, they should have visible programmatic labels, not, I would say, like fake labels, but something that technology can acknowledge and read and identify as labels, and also tooltips where it's helpful. And one thing that I have seen in a lot of forms, if you have a help text, never put it inside the field, because as soon as the person starts typing, that disappears. Okay? So media, audio. All audio should have transcripts accompanying it, and there's some some tools that do offer captioning as well, so use it if you have it, but at least transcripts for all audio content. Video similar, but also they should always be captioned. You can add transcripts, and which makes it great as well. And then audio description is required when you have a lot of visual content that is not being described, that is communicating a lot of stuff. Okay, and images that have meaningful in a context should always have alt text to describe them. And then if they are not communicating anything, they're just there for decoration, they should be marked as decorative or be marked as artifacts. Okay, what do you think of that? Went through really fast. Any questions? Okay, all right. So here are some of the things what changed at a glance, right? So we have 4 new AA criteria in 2.2, where we have 2 level A criteria in 2.2. They're often overlooked. And then there was 1 criterion removed, which is parsing, which is no longer required because technology has advanced enough that it's no longer needed. So if you were already familiar with 2.1 AA, then you don't have to worry about much. You just have to remember just a few new things. That's it. But just add to it because it's backwards compatible. Oh, hold on. There you go. So the 4 levels that are brand new in level AA, focus not obscured. So whenever anything is selected in the content, for whatever is by tapping or clicking or tabbing or whatever, there should not be anything on top of it or even covering it partially. Banners, floating stuff, chat, help, advertisements, right? There should not be a floating element, right? So if you're using any of those, make sure that they get re-audited so that doesn't happen, because sometimes they're useful. Dragging movements, so any movements are required to interact with content, like dragging, like slider bars, anything, you should always have the option to tap if you're on a touch screen, or also use arrow keys to be able to move things over, not just the mouse. Target size minimum should be at least 24 by 24 CSS pixels. And I mean, have you ever tried to select something on your phone on a tablet and you're going, can't, right? Okay, that's why that is. Okay, accessible authentication minimum. So the logins should not require cognitive tests. They're very popular, makes things more secure, but a lot of people have a really hard time getting through that, even though they are users that should be getting through the authentication, right? So copying codes between devices, like you have an app here that authenticates when you copy the code over here, that presents difficulty for a lot of people, or puzzles, right? Unless there's an alternative. If you provide an alternative method that doesn't include that, yes, you're welcome to use it, okay? Okay, so the two new level A criteria, which people overlook a lot of times, right, is consistent help. And that has to do with if you have like a lot of the AI chats that are floating around sometimes, right, to help people, NSF links, contact info, anything like that, make sure that if you offer that, like for example on a website, that it is the location and the look and feel is consistent throughout. Because you don't want people to have to refigure out how to find that when they need it in a different page. Redundant entry. Also, if you have people enter information as they go in, making them re-enter that information over and over in the same context or application or survey, that presents a difficulty. It adds some barriers. So it is allowed to, like the autofill to work, allow it to populate, or have them select from a drop-down or something like that, something that they already entered, right? And then he's talking a little bit about the parsing, right? Because the modern browsers and assistive tech, the code that was malformed used to be a barrier for those two communicating, but that's no longer the case. So that's why you don't have to do that. And then for people who are always finding those duplicate IDs, yay, you don't have to do that anymore. Okay, so what does this mean for higher ed? What it means is, okay, so, that doesn't show up, okay. So we need to make sure that we ask our vendors an updated ACR, and that's an accessibility conformance report based on a VPAT, and we usually call them VPATs, that are dated at least after October 2023, if not later, right? To make sure that they have been updating, and then check and see if they're working on conformance with WCAG 2.2 AA. Then in terms of what faculty built content and public websites, those are the ones that carry the most risk right now for institutions. So we have to be very, very careful with those, like, you know, LMS page, a syllabi, slide decks, institutional websites, right? Anything that is publicly, or even websites and processes where students need to participate or go into, so to register for courses or do other things they have to do. And that's followed by employee content and the tools they use. And then some of the three places I see violations of 2.2 most often is LMS chat widgets, because they were great, but unless you're testing with someone who has a disability, who's using a screen reader regularly, then you might not know what those difficulties are. Integrating tutoring tools as well, login flows or forms. So make sure those are audited and tested. Okay. So PDFs are still our biggest liability. Why? We're used to them, they're easy to create, everybody knows how to use them. People ask for them, students ask for them because they're used to it. And they want to be able to download something easily and put it into ChatGPT if it's an article they need to read, right? So about, you know, this is like information from a typical one of our, we've seen this in Bothell courses, my institution. So about 10 to 20% of files tend to be PDF, sometimes more, depending. Business courses tend to have a much higher percentage. And then those also tend to be 60 to 80 of the low scoring items. We use Anthology Ally to track that as an institution and for courses, and that's where I get that information. The Title II covers everything we provide, distribute or host, including faculty uploads, okay? So we need to be conscious of that, okay? And why do they fail so often? Okay? The PDF format was designed in 1993. And it was like an answer to a lot of our woes. So many people did not have Office because it was expensive. And it was a pain by the time we got them. Oh, we need to share the viewer with them, the PowerPoint viewer, the Excel viewer, the Word viewer. You guys remember those viewer files? Yeah? And then those came about, and it's like, oh my gosh, they don't have to have Office now. So the thing is, it was not accessible, but we were not thinking about that at the time, right? So accessibility was retrofit, as many things are in modern products. The accessibility is not in their mind when they're creating, when something is being created. So then, and that's, by the way, that's the case with Canva. Canva is so popular, but it's very inaccessible. Yeah, you know about that, huh? And the people in faculty, oh, these are great. They create so many wonderful and professional looking. It's like, you export a PDF from there, you share from there, it's not accessible. I'm sorry. So we're trying to leverage things that they can do with using the, and trying to use those assets and things that they create on those templates, right? Because they are wonderful. So, and they make things easy. So some of the common failure modes that happens, right? We get a lot of PDFs that's very often scan images of text. Could be, a professor that cares about their students. They don't want them to buy this one little book for the class. They hopefully scan 1 or 2 chapters only. Only, right? But so some of those image PDFs come from that. Hopefully they get assistance with the library to do those things. And tag exports, right? So for example, something is created very nicely in Word or PowerPoint, and they export to PDF, but when they export to PDF, they either did not check that the tags for accessibility are exported with it, or they reduce the size to make a smaller file, and that takes off all of those tags. All of that wonderful information is removed. So yeah. Also, missing or incorrect reading order. One of the most common things that happens with PDFs that are text-based, if they are not checked, and depends on the content and everything, of course, is that it looks right. You will read it from top to bottom, left to right, but then someone using a screen reader goes to access it and read it, and it jumps around. May start in the middle or on page 10 and then jump to page 2. Imagine that was the only way you could get that content, if it was jumping around. So also, there's no document language attributes, so the language has not been assigned, is not part of the metadata of that document. There are a lot of decorative images that are not marked as artifacts. So they're being announced, image, and the person's going, well, what is this image of? I have no idea, right? Tables without headers, because they're going to read top to bottom, left to right, but if they're on this cell of a complex table that's 30 by 30, for example, with lots of stuff in there, they're not going to know what this number or that data goes to, because what is connected doesn't get announced. Okay, so the first question to ask, aside from, does this need to be a PDF, right, is, does this content need to look the same on every device, or does it need to be readable on every device? I mean, that's the bottom question. Does it need to be readable, right? So if the answer is readable, PDF is almost never the right format for that. Okay? So in faculty and staff conversations, yes, we have a deadline, we have requirements, we need to do this, and we are, oh my gosh, more than 30 years behind in terms of accessibility. We have accrued a very, very large accessibility debt, and it's going to take us a while to cover that. So, and it's going to take a lot of work and cooperation and collaboration, right? So always leading with a carrot versus the stick, and I mean, we can use the stick if we need to sometimes, but so lead with the workflow, not compliance, right? So say, for example, here's a faster way to make a syllabus that already meets the requirements, right? Instead of, oh, all of those PDFs are out of compliance. You're not complying. You have a very low score, right? or offer shared vetted templates, right? So collaborate with other teams, with schools, whatever the groups that are involved in this, to create templates for different things that people can use, and training along with those. Any accessible template can be made accessible in a flash. So training and support are absolutely necessary. Demo the cost difference. So show how, and then demonstrate how. It may take 5 more minutes or down, depending, right, to make a Word document more accessible, but a PDF from that document may take an hour or more to remediate and make accessible. And then in talking about PDFs, forms are the very worst, because we've used fillable forms. They're secure, and you can do a lot of things with them, yeah. However, even when they're remediated, which takes 2 to 3 times as much work to remediate PDF forms, even then, they're not fully accessible on Mac environments or any Apple devices. Okay. So any questions or comments so far? You want to share anything? Yes.
Okay, so going back to the readability, so the products our AEC department, accessible education department uses for students to have any kind of reading help. So like say you have some kind of dyslexia, we can do Kurzweil. Kurzweil wants a PDF of whatever the reading is. So teachers are giving us the PDFs, but then they're not accessible. So do you have another solution for how do we get around that, where I need it to just be readable, but also like the different apps I need to put in require it to be a PDF?
Oh, yeah.
I have a list of shady websites that I
Oh,
access
do
from my
that.
Thank you,
I
Don.
can't access them from campus.
Yeah, yeah.
I have a list of shady websites that I access from my house.
So just do that.
Because, well, I oversee accessibility, so
Nice.
that's my problem a lot.
Oh, so you know what I'm
Yeah,
doing.
so like I have 80 readings in my class and none of them are accessible. And now it's my problem because we have a student who has accommodations.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I have a list of shady websites that I can go out and find any number of.
So you just do have a DL.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just shady about it.
Nice.
And then we're able to
Everything's-
download them. We did drive our librarians into buying a new scanner.
Oh.
That's like, it's a folded one, so like everything that scans is actually flat and it's a lot easier for those to read.
That's so cool.
That saved us a lot, but yeah, shady websites.
Okay, shady websites.
Yep,
Cool.
yeah. And with those scanners, real quick, before I forget, because I will forget, it's just when things are scanned, it's just reminding people who are scanning, if they're doing it themselves also, to always have 1 page per page of PDF, if they have to do that. Because otherwise, what happens by default is that you have 2 pages in one to save paper or whatever, and it goes right across from one page to the next. And that doesn't make sense, right?
And then if it doesn't scan, in the good old days, they would type in
Yeah.
or they would write in the letters, so you could, if you were just reading it, you read, but you run it through the screen reader and it's gibberish.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it will spell out everything. So you're going, okay, what was that word, or that whole sentence, or that whole paragraph? Yeah, so yes.
So is there a way that, a standardized way to save and preserve PDFs that have been remediated in order to provide, so case in point, so we have media enhanced classrooms, we do lecture capture, and then the notes, the content that professors utilize for a particular class, our technicians will go into the instructor computer where they annotated PDFs or any other documents. Our technicians will save those notes, convert them to PDFs if they're a different document other than a PDF, convert them to PDF, and then upload them with the lectures for students to be able to review. So if a PDF has been made accessible, how do we preserve those accessible attributes? Is there a common or any information or resource that will allow us to be able to make sure that ensure that we're preserving the accessible attributes that faculty did?
So, I mean, you guys can offer answers as well. So I don't think there's a standardized. There are many ways that we're trying to find to preserve things. So number one, if it's something that has been a PDF created from something that's handwritten, that's a difficulty in itself, which happens a lot in STEM, or anywhere where there are formulas, processes, which is great for teaching. It's actually the replacement. That's why we have whiteboards, right? And touch screens with writing, so we can have that active content going through, and students can see how things happen live. So
Like,
Yeah.
how are we gonna, we're not in the compliance business.
Yeah, right,
as
right.
Classroom support, instructional technology support technician.
Yeah.
But we do want to be able to preserve anything that
Yes.
a faculty member does in a classroom, annotations, or
Mhm.
anything else. We don't know how we're gonna do that for annotations.
Right. So a couple of things, especially if it's got any mathematical content,
Mhm.
right, any STEM content like that. MathPix is amazing. It won't be perfect, but you can export from MathPix to Word and fix it in Word. And then, did you say that the other system only takes PDFs when it gets about, or can it take other document? Can it take like a Word document?
Yeah, so Word documents or anything, but our workflow is that we convert anything, whether it's a Word, whether it's a PowerPoint presentation file, we convert it to PDF and provide that along
Right.
with the lecture capture for students to utilize as review content. So
Question. Okay, sorry.
So, yeah, we're just trying to figure out, you know, if they're annotating a PowerPoint presentation, if they're annotating a Word document, when we go to convert that to a PDF, we would typically just send it. Now, if you just save it,
Mhm.
you know, regularly, it's not going to preserve the accessibility attributes that they may have done to be in compliance on their
Yeah, right.
PowerPoint documents or Word documents otherwise.
So what I would suggest is, number one, if you have like the documents at the original format, preserve those and share those if it fits with your process, right? Because that will be like the most accessible version they're going to have. And then in regards to anything that's handwritten, you'll need some sort of conversion. MathPix is adamant that needs to be checked. Then also, one thing that we've been using with a lot of success, it has been using AI. We got licenses for Claude Cowork and Code, and we've written workflows as well as a bunch of skills to look at that and then grab and interpret that. And then when it gets exported, it exports as either we can have it export as a Canvas page or as like a Word document or a PowerPoint. If it's a PowerPoint, then we'll have the content in the notes. But then all of that does require human intervention. Yeah, so there's always extra stuff, but we've been able to process hundreds and hundreds of PowerPoints that way. And then one of the active services that we offer right now is, hey, tell us if you want us to get all of the images in your course, get them all out text, right? And then you can edit it and revise it if you want. The other one is you can submit all of your lecture slides, which accomplishes two things. We get them to replace all of the PDFs of those in the course, eliminate those, and then they keep their slides, and they will have alt text for the image, plus an accessible transcript of those, which is converted to a Canvas page, a snapshot of the slide with everything in text on the page, and it's editable as well if they update their slides. So that's just some of the things we've done, but there are more out there to explore, and there's no standard I know for like, oh, this is the golden answer. I wish there was.
Ultimately, it's going to be incumbent upon the faculty to go in and manually go in and do whatever they need to do to make their annotation accessible, but they're not going to do it. They're not going to
No.
have time to do it. So what what they're going to end up doing is not, annotating files in a live classroom, or they're not going to record. And that's going to detrimental to our business.
Yes, ChatGPT EDU has been very helpful with simple prompts to do that as well. I mean, that's you have to do some checking, but it's nothing compared to trying to rewrite all of that in text format, right? And you can request whatever format you want it to export as, because even if, let's say, you got it right and you got it fixed in Word, and if it still requires to be, and I know this is more added to the process, to PDF ultimately, that PDF is going to have to be remediated as well. So that's that. So you're adding, if you add things like PDF, there's always that remediation part to make it accessible. Yeah. Did you guys have any other ideas, things that you do, or questions? Oh, yeah. Now.
One of the things that I run into as faculty trying to deal with this PDF issue that is a big issue on my campus is that I'll hear one of two things. One would be, well, I've inherited all these classes that already have PDFs and I've used them for the last 15 years. I don't know where they came from, so I don't own them. I don't own the original. It's just a PDF I got from
yeah.
right? And they they don't know whether or not it's possible to remediate something they don't own originally.
Yes.
And that's one issue. And the other issue is time
Mhm.
and the proper tools. And sometimes it's hard because unless I don't know of another, like, one shoe-fits-all tool yet, but I know that you can run a PDF through multiple tools to get where you, like, for example, Word's accessibility checker doesn't check everything.
No.
But then after you maybe run it through Word, if you own that document and then you bring it into like Adobe, you can further check for accessibility and further remediate if you need to in some instances. But the problem is you're going through all these tools and then you tell faculty this and they're just like, they keep zoning out, like, I don't want to do all that. Like, there's got to be an easier way.
Right,
And
right.
then one question I'll get was, don't students have a button they can press that just automatically makes everything accessible? And I'm like,
No.
It's your job to make things accessible. So it's a real issue.
Yes.
Especially when courses use, and I've had this happen where it's like 100+ PDFs in a course
Mhm.
term.
And one solution that this math instructor on our campus gave, and it's something that's common sense, so you might be doing it or thought about it already, is that she does these mini videos of all of her lectures for students to watch, right, with handwritten notes on them. And she changes colors, and she's one of those people who has amazing writing, very clear too, right? It's not always the case. So what she does is she describes every single step, which is, if you describe things accessibly and then share that video and the video's caption, there's your accessible version.
I think that's going to cut into the hour and 15 minutes that we have to teach.
Well-
Especially for engineering faculty that have tons of material that they need to
Yeah.
get through. That's
No, no.
outside of my, it's just something they're going to have to deal with. I don't know how, but, it's going to.
Yeah, and it is a challenge. I understand that because that happens. Like the time in the classroom that they spend with the students gets, for some reason, seems to get shorter and shorter, and they still have the same amount of content they need to cover. It's not fair either. So, man, yeah. So something that we all need to continue working on, definitely. Okay, so. Next, the primer on accessibility, PDF accessibility. So I have a little checklist for you here for 2 things to check in a PDF, right? The document is tagged, and for that, of course, you need Adobe Acrobat Pro. That's like, there are other tools out there, but that's still like the gold standard for remediation. So no tags equals no accessibility. So real text, not a scan image. So running OCR, objects, thank you. It's pasted, yeah. Optical content recognition, yeah. So optical, no, it's not optical. No. Why am I spacing it? I don't know why. Okay. Anyway.
You literally just said it at the beginning, which is hilarious.
I know, right? OCR first. Okay. So make sure that the language is set. In the document properties, so if you open something in Adobe, if you go to File and Document Properties, and you open it to that first tab, that's where the title should go, not the file name. It should be the clear title that makes sense with spaces in between the words. Okay? And so then there's the title. There's another one in here I'll get to in a minute. And there's the language you're going to be on in the properties, but another tab, as well as what do you see when you open up that PDF. Logical reading structure, right? There should be H1 followed by H2, H3, and so forth. And it should not go past H6, H7, H8. That does not exist on the web. Okay, I know that it is in all the APA manuals and some other format manuals, but it should never go beyond H6. If we need to do beyond that, we need to write a little better, I think, right? Not necessary. So. Make sure that the reading order matches the visual order, what we kind of alluded to earlier, right? Meaningful images, make sure that those have alt text. Decorous ones need to be marked as artifacts. That's the key word for Adobe Acrobat and for PDFs. They're marked as artifacts, so they're not announced. Tables must have a header, rows, or columns or marked with scope. This is required. What does that mean? It means that, the recommended is that each, for example, you have a table with, I'm going to be very bad because I'm not very good at drawing, but we have a table here, and I don't know if you can see that. Oh, that's bad. Okay, anyway, so you have your headers. I don't know. So it's supposed to be a table, 3 rows, right? With 1 row and 3 columns, sorry. And so we have the headers, so the scope of this header row right here is 1, because it's 1 column that is over. And if it's on the side here, if it's a row header, it will be, 1, because it's for 1 column. And sometimes you may have combined headers merged, and that will require to have the exact number of what is over, whether it is 2, it's over 2 columns or 2 rows, what is it controlling or overseeing. So, but the thing is, that fix can only be done in Adobe Acrobat or similar products. It cannot be done in Word. Word doesn't know what to do with merge cells. It lets us do it, but it cannot interpret it, right? And so anyway, so that's what that means. So links are descriptive. Make sure. And the click here's don't work. Learn more all over the place doesn't work, because if someone is pulling a list of links, which they can if they're using a screen reader, they get a list of that and going, okay, watch video, but it doesn't say anything else. This other link says, click here. Doesn't know what, because it's just a list of links. Make sure the form fields have tooltips, labels, and tab order. So if you tab through a form, it taps in the order that is expected, the logical order that you expect. And it passes. This is another remediation tool that is free. PAC 2026. A lot of people have been using 2024, but this is the one that's available for download now, and it has AI in it. And it is endorsed by the PDF Association. There's a worldwide organization who actually owns the PDF format. It's not Adobe, it's them. And they're the ones that created it. So, and then if you learn how to do some basic testing with a screen reader, like in VDA, which is free, just the basic, you don't have to learn how to use it fully, but just the basic testing, or someone else can learn to do that, and they can run that test, then you will know. It's not a simple answer. That's why this has so many things listed on this list. So, okay. So, do you want? I don't know if we'll have time to run through Adobe Acrobat Pro, but basically, what you do, if we do, I'll show you. But so when you open a PDF in Adobe Acrobat Pro, you have extra tools. Otherwise, it looks the same, right? So one of the tools is Prepare for Accessibility, and within that, there's an accessibility checker that Mel was talking about. So make sure you run that first, and then look at all of the errors and warnings. And no matter what, you're always going to have 2 things that show up. Okay? Color contrast and reading order. Always. You know why? Because what? It's because it requires a human to check those. So it's always going to show up. So once you check it, you can right-click on it and mark it as fixed or completed, or whatever the option is. Okay? Check the document properties under File. So in the first tab, you'll have the title. And then the middle one is Initial View. And then you got to select, so Display Document Title. It's like the bottom half. You find a drop-down option. So when you open the PDF, what you see is not 2026 fall quarter, blah, 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 underscore, blah, 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 blah. No. All you see is the actual title of what it is in the initial view. And then the last tab has the drop-down for the language, where you can select English if that's the language of that document. But it always needs to have a language. Set alternate text and reading order, so that means all the images. And it has a little tool that will check all the images. And it goes through all the images in the document, and you can say mark it as decorative or add alt text right then and there. The reading order, the best way to explain that is 2 things. Number one of the panels that opens in Acrobat, especially the new Acrobat, on this side you're going to have panels, And on this side, you're going to have tools. It used to be the other way around with the older versions. And so where the panels are, one of the panels is going to be content, another one is going to be reading order, which I don't recommend you use, except maybe you go in so you can see the little numbers on the PDF. And then the other one is tags. The tags is the most important one because it shows you if all the content that is tagged, and as you click on any of those tags, it selects content on the page. And you will see P for paragraph or body text. You will see H1, H2 for all the headings. You will see table and with a bunch of other tags inside, like HTML. You will see list with some tags inside of it, and so forth. Image for images and things like that, links. So then, to check the reading order, one of the first things is what's called walking the text tree. And then you go down and you tap down, and everything, it should follow, the order of the text should follow the order as you see the document. And that's the one way to check that, fairly easy. And then you can validate with the pack. Oh, I have 2024 there. 2026, because that's the one that's available. In one of the slides, which I'll go back to the initial slide in a minute, or remind me to if I don't, there's a QR code for the slides that anyone can download. So let's see if we can get through. Okay, so some of the recommended tools are, as we said, Adobe Acrobat Pro. It has all the things that I mentioned already. PAC 2026, recommended by Access PDF, and it's free to download, and that's the site that you come from. And the link is on another slide. Unfortunately, I didn't put it in here too. Anthology Alley, if I know you don't want anything to give anything to Blackboard, but if your institution uses it or is thinking about getting it, it's a great tool because it can give you the course report, the course score, and it will check every file that's uploaded. And then also it now checks Canvas pages as well. If it's Canvas, I think it will do the same with Moodle and Blackboard. Are there other LMSs that you can use with it that you know of? No, it doesn't work with Moodle? Oh, okay. City Labs, Tidy Up, and Do It, which we purchased. Tidy Up is the best tool to clean up all of the duplicate and unnecessary files. And you can find easily anything that's not linked and download it so you have a backup just in case, and then delete the stuff that's not linked.
And City Labs will sometimes just like prompt you some access for a minute, so you can use it and it'll give you a lot of information.
They're great company. Yes, they will do that. And you do it, it's similar to Ally. It works slightly different, but it's another tool that will give like a score and that kind of thing, and point all of the inaccessible stuff in there. Cloud Cowork and Code, I would highly recommend because it's a tool that you can set it up so it's secure and it's contained. You can have it work in just one folder on your machine, so none of the content gets uploaded, put anywhere, so you can train LMS, the large models. Yeah. So, and that's what we do. We have folders for those. That's the only way we use it. Okay. Okay, so we went through that. Is it going back? Why is it going backwards now? It switched on me. Sorry. Okay, all right. So here are some sources, resources, and references that you can access. Let me go to, okay, here on slide 22, you have there's a link here to go to the download page for the PAC 2022, or 2026, sorry. And then let me go to, this here is the QR code.
I think you can turn it on. When I tried to scan earlier, it asked me to give permission. FYI.
Oh, really? Because I tested it and it, can someone test it? Can you test it for me right now?
Yeah, it still says request access.
To the file? Is it the file? Okay, I'll check it because I have it right here.
Thank you. That's gonna be really nice downloading.
Yeah, so let me, sorry about that. Oh yeah, my cursor is over there. Come back here. Let me double check. So I like to always go over this to make sure everybody can access it, because sometimes it looks good to me, but that's not the case. Okay, try again. Okay.
When I said it like that, I was excited to get it.
Yeah, so it's 153 right now. I can show you a little bit about Adobe Acrobat if you want, or if you want to ask more questions, or I can let you go. It's up to you guys.
There's another session or two, isn't there?
Yes, yes.
Anna, I think you came in here and just presented, even though you were like coming in with the wind, and I think you did a fantastic
Oh,
job. So
thank you.
Thank you.
I only forgot, thank you. I only forgot that OCR thing. It's like I still can't remember the C. I don't know why. Character, thank you. I've had a morning. Optical
tell
character.
them
Thank you.
If they're using 15-year-old PDFs, it's time for them to best practices and replace their PDFs.
Yeah.
They would be faster and less work.
And they look at me like I'm nuts.
Yeah.
They'd be accessible then probably because somebody else did the work already. I hope maybe.